locusts flying around with scorpion tails, stinging men with such intensity and pain that the men try to end their lives, but they can't, and the pain lasts for 5 months. Oh, and by the way, they're under the control of a demon from a pit whose name is the Destroyer. Is this just a bad horror movie? Nope. It's a typical day in the book of Revelation. Is this real? Is it literal or is it something else? Stick around to find out. Welcome, folks, to Faith Formulated. No fluffs, just facts. I'm your host, Jeremy, and I hope you enjoy this video. So today we're going to be talking about the book of Revelation, specifically chapter 9. Now, the thing about the book of Revelation is it contains a lot of fantastic imagery, and it's really hard sometimes to decode some of that imagery. The weird thing about chapter 9, though, is that it's actually pretty straightforward. So we're going to sit and read it. We're going to read chapter 9 of Revelation, and then we're going to kind of discuss, well, what could it mean? Is this literal? Did John really mean this? I mean, he's seeing these heavenly images. He's being shown all these visions. So what is going on in Revelation 9? And can we find this elsewhere in the Bible? You may be surprised. I believe it is elsewhere in the Bible. So let's crack open the Bible and go to Revelation chapter 9. I'm reading from the LSB translation. Let's get started. Then the fifth angel sounded. Then I saw a star from heaven which had fallen to the earth, and the key of the pit of the abyss was given to him. So if you're wondering what's going on, the context of this, these are judgments that are being poured upon the earth during the last days. These are what's called the trumpet judgments, and so this is the fifth judgment out of the 7 trumpet judgments. And so the angel in heaven is the one who sounded this trumpet. And then John says he saw a star from heaven, but often, especially in the book of Revelation, star is equal to an angel or a demon, some kind of heavenly being. So basically this is a demon, and he was given the key to the pit of the abyss, and you'll see that later on. It's explained within chapter 9. And he opened the pit of the abyss, and smoke went up out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by the smoke of the pit. So we see in verse 2 that we have the sun and air being darkened. Now this is apocalyptic language, with the sun being darkened and the moon being turned blood red. So you see this in both the Old Testament and the New Testament. So we have to wonder, is this actually literal? Because it is a slightly different phrasing. It doesn't say the sun was darkened and the moon turned blood red. It just says the sun and the air were darkened by smoke, which is quite interesting and a little bit different than the normal apocalyptic language that you see in the New Testament and the Old Testament about the day of the Lord. Now here's where it gets groovy, folks. Then out of the smoke came locusts upon the earth, and power was given to them, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And they were told not to hurt the grass of the earth, nor any green thing, nor any tree, but only the men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. And they were not permitted to kill anyone, but to torment for 5 months. And their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it stings a man. And in those days men will seek death and will never find it. They will long to die, and death flees from them. Now, folks, I don't know about you. I thought spiders were bad, but it's about to get a lot worse. And the appearance of the locusts was like horses prepared for battle. And on their head appeared to be crowns like gold, and their faces were like the faces of men. And they had hair like the hair of women, and their teeth were like the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates like the breastplates of iron. And the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they have tails like scorpions and stings, and in their tails is the power to hurt men for 5 months. They have as king over them the angel of the abyss. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek he has the name Apollyon. Now, I don't know about you, but Apollyon is actually a pretty awesome sounding villain name, Apollyon. I don't know, it just sounds cool. This guy is not cool though, but we have to ask ourselves, is any of this literal? So this is some really fantastic detail, talking about the hair of women. Their sound of wings is like the sound of chariots. They have stings, scorpion stingers. So what does this actually mean? Now, when I've had discussions with other Christians or just other people in general, or when I've done prior study, we thought, well, maybe the locusts are other kind of demons. They're like mini demons under the control of this big demon Apollyon. Or maybe it's some kind of technology. Maybe they're drones. You know, we have micro drones flying around these days. Who only knows what our government has for military weapons? So maybe the Antichrist and whatnot is in control of these military weapons. So what exactly are these? Well, there's a lot of questions that we can ask, but I believe we already have the answer, and it's in the Old Testament. Where in the Old Testament? Glad you asked. Turn your Bibles to the Old Testament prophet of Joel. Now, if you're not familiar with Joel, we'll join the club. I'm not familiar with a lot of the Old Testament prophets, especially the minor prophets. That doesn't mean what Joel said was any less important. That just means it's a short prophecy. So we're going to Joel chapter 1, and we're going to skip down to verse 4. I encourage you to read the whole thing, but check it out. This is where the action starts in Joel chapter 1, verse 4. What the gnawing locust has left, the swarming locust has consumed, and what the swarming locust has left, the creeping locust has consumed, and what the creeping locust has left, the stripping locust has consumed. Awake, drunkards, and weep, and wail, all you wine drinkers, on the account of the sweet wine that is cut off from your mouth. For a nation has come up against my land, mighty and without number. Its teeth are the teeth of a lion, and it has the fangs of a lioness. All right, so what exactly is going on here? Well, in Joel, I believe there are two prophecies going at once. Chapter 1 is talking about what has already happened, but it is very important to read chapter 1. Why? Because we need to establish that the way Joel is referring to these locusts, they're referred to as a nation. Now listen to the imagery. For a nation has come up against my land, mighty and without number. That is talking about there's so many you can't count them, and this nation is actually the locust. So sometimes in the Old Testament, it's called the devourer. Yeah, so the Old Testament will sometimes call locust the devourer, and it's a judgment from God. And he's using just these tiny little, really pissed off grasshoppers to extract judgment or exact judgment on various nations, including Israel. So this chapter 1 here is talking about something that has already happened. Notice the past tense. What the gnawing locust has left, the swarming locust has consumed. And then down to verse 6, for a nation has come up against my land. So we see that the word nation and the imagery of nation and an army has been associated with locusts. Now, where things start getting really interesting is actually Joel chapter 2. So in chapter 1, we established that the imagery and language of locusts, literal locusts, are associated with the nation coming up against Israel. But check out chapter 2. Blow a trumpet in Zion and make a loud shout on my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh is coming. Surely it is near. So in case you're unfamiliar with biblical terminology, the day of Yahweh or the great and fearful day of the Lord, etc., is talking about the end times. Sometimes it's talking about a specific day. Sometimes it's just multiple days or an age of the end time. So the day of Yahweh or the day of the Lord or the great and fearful day of the Lord, when you read that, you can pretty much guarantee you're talking about the end of the world, like the end. Verse 2, a day of darkness and thick darkness, a day of clouds and dense gloom. As the dawn is spread over the mountains, so there is a numerous and mighty people. There has never been anything like it, nor will there be again after it for the years from generation to generation. Now here's where we need to pay attention. Notice there is a numerous and mighty people. Is God talking about the nation of Israel? No, he's saying everyone needs to tremble because there is a numerous and mighty people. Now, what do we remember from chapter 1? Nation, the word in the language of nation was associated with locusts. And check out the language here. We're talking about days of clouds and dense gloom and darkness, and a nation and numerous mighty people that no one has ever seen is coming. Oh boy, this doesn't sound good. Starting in verse 3, a fire consumes before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is like the Garden of Eden before them, but a desolate wilderness behind them, and nothing at all escapes them. Their appearance is like the appearance of horses, and like war horses, so they run. With a noise as of chariots, they leap on top of the mountains. Like a crackling of a flame of fire consumes the stubble, like a mighty people arranged for battle. So we've got a lot of descriptive language there, just imagery of it's green before them, but a fire consumes before them. Basically, the imagery is nothing is going to escape them. They're destroyers. But in your mind, you may be thinking, okay, well, this is an army because it's a mighty people, etc. But then we read, they leap on tops of the mountains. Now, that sounds pretty strange. Maybe they're just really agile warriors, or again, maybe they're drones or something like that. Who knows, right? But let's keep reading. Starting in verse 6, before them the peoples are writhing, all faces turn pale, they run like mighty men. Talking about this other army. They climb up the wall like men of war. That's kind of strange. And they march in line, and they do not deviate from their paths. They do not crowd each other. They march everyone in his path. When they fall against the defending weapons, they do not break ranks. They rush on to the city. They run on the wall. They climb up into the houses. They enter through the windows like a thief. Ooh. Before them the earth trembles, the heavens quake, the sun and the moon grow dark, and the stars lose their brightness. But Yahweh gives forth his voice before his mighty military force. Surely his camp is very numerous, for mighty is he who does his word. The day of Yahweh is indeed great and very awesome. Who can endure it? Fantastic language there, and I don't know about you, but it doesn't sound like something that I would want to be involved in. But what is going on here? What is going on? Did you notice some of the language that's being used in Joel? It sounds very familiar to the language in Revelation. Well, how about we put these two side by side and start to compare them? Okay, folks, so hopefully you can see this. This is my iPad screen. I'm using OneNote. If you're curious, I love it on the iPad. So check it out. On the left side of the screen, I have Joel chapter 2, and on the right side of the screen, I have Revelation chapter 9. And check out the way the verbiage is just very similar. So this is Joel 2:2, a day of darkness and thick darkness, a day of clouds and dense gloom. What about Revelation 9? Revelation 9, verse 2. Smoke went up out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace. The sun and the air were darkened by the smoke of the pit. And there's locusts upon the earth, numerous and mighty people. Remember Joel chapter 1, they talked about a mighty people being those 4 types of locusts. So let's scroll down some more. This is, again, left is Joel, right is Revelation. Their appearance is like the appearance of horses. Revelation 9:7, and the appearance of the locust was like horses prepared for battle. And notice in 4, and like a war horses they run. So that's a battle horse. Again, that matches with the purple, even though this is green. With a noise as of chariots. Revelation 9:9. And the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots, of many horses running to battle. Joel 2:6. Before them the peoples are writhing, all faces turn pale. What is that talking about? That's talking about pain, I believe. Could be fear, but also pain. Revelation 9:5. And they were not permitted to kill anyone, but to torment them for 5 months. And the torment was like the torment of a scorpion. Boy, this does not sound fun. Oh, I forgot one. This was in Joel chapter 1. Their teeth are like teeth of a lion, and it has the fangs of a lioness. If we scroll over here, their teeth were like the teeth of lions. This is Revelation 9, remember. So there are some, and here you can see a visual of the swarming locust, creeping locust, great military force which I sent among you. That's later on in Joel 2. So again, it's God's army that he's talking about. So what are we to conclude from this? Well, it sounds, when you initially read Revelation 9, that that's just imagery, that's nothing literal, or maybe it's something else. Maybe it means drones. John doesn't know what he's seeing because they are some heavenly visions, and he's seeing all this fantastic stuff. But when we read Joel, when we combine Joel 1 and Joel 2, and we listen to how Joel refers to locusts, or God refers to locusts through Joel, as devouring locusts, creeping locusts, etc., and then a nation, and then he goes into this other day of Yahweh, or the day of the Lord, when there's smoke and there's all this crazy stuff happening. I believe Revelation 9 is literal. There are literally going to be flying locusts with scorpion tails going around harming people greatly, because this is God's wrath that he's pouring upon the earth, and these people won't repent, they won't follow God, and so they're going to have quite a time. So what are we to do? Are we to say, nanny, nanny, boo, boo, we don't have to endure this? As a Christian, no, we should pray for those who are not yet saved. Maybe show them this. I mean, it sounds fantastic. It sounds just wild. But you now have 2 references. Joel chapter 2, Revelation 9. The imagery and the language is extraordinarily similar. And I believe that Joel 2 is a prediction of Revelation 9. I hope this video helps you, gets you interested in the Bible. Don't take my word for it. Read yourself. Please read yourself. And if you found this useful, please like and subscribe. Helps this get out to other people who may find this useful. Thank you so much. God bless and have a great day.